Acumatica is one of the only ERPs that was born in the cloud. So it was born in this century.
Oh, wow.
It is one of the most easy to use ERPs on the market. So people that, are coming out of college, if you're getting them into your company, they're used to using easy software in their phones and their tablets.
Yep.
So this allows them to get, understand the UI, UX experience really well. It's also built for a multi-cloud, which means that there's other cloud software out there, whether it's CAD integration or Salesforce or Zoho, and you can connect those very easily with their state-of-the-art Extensibility. And one thing that I forgot to mention is they have unlimited users, which is really nice. So if you have multiple sites or you want to have somebody in the executive team looking at reports, but also anybody else in the company using it, you have to worry about users and buying new users. So that allows you to be future ready because now you can, use all the different things that are there from the BI, the ERP itself, the integrations, and the AI capabilities they've added, such as anomaly detection, where, say you had an invoice for a certain vendor that you're about to pay, but it was 500% more than you ever paid for them before. It'll track that and give you an anomaly and let you know, for example. Being born in the cloud, they've been developing it in the cloud since day one. So you have one common interface across the whole application.
Yeah.
You also have the most modern extensibility, so you can do that extensibility. You have the AI, in it, but it's also that ease of use that, we've learned from Apple over the last 20 years that, makes it a great cloud application that users of it just can get into it and use it right away, but much less of a training curve. They get that modern user interface, but they use it very quickly so they can, remove some of the inefficiencies of not being on a modern ERP, in any process that they have. You get the unlimited users, so everybody in the whole company can use it. And then you get the new AI and, modern BI that's available. So you add all that up and it just looks and feels like something you're used to.
Yeah.
And then that's one of the advantages that's there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can also work in manufacturing, distribution, professional services, and finance only, and e-commerce.
Okay.
So it's one package that works for all of them. So if you have multiple types of industries, like you're a concrete, precast concrete manufacturer, but you also do field service to install that at a construction site, or you have manufacturing and distribution, it can handle all those modes. So most ERP systems that I've seen outside of Acumatica, they'll have a named user or concurrent user approach. So I'm sure everybody that's watching this might have logged into a system at one point or another and said, you're not licensed.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen with Acumatica. You have unlimited licenses. Anybody from the shop floor to out in the field, if you have aftermarket services to the front office, they can all use the system and not being worried about that. What else that allows is if you add another site, right, and you're in the same system, you don't have to buy another whole ERP for that site. And more licenses, you can just use the software, and based on that, the resources that you use, that's what you're paying for. Biggest fear is change, I think. So change with their company. I got to learn a new ERP. I have to get a project team together. They're all busy already. But what I say, that is all true. It's not easy to move, but now I think is the right time, from cybersecurity concerns to being ready for being able to use data to your advantage with modern BI and AI. If you don't start cleaning your data and moving it into elastic computing and scalable computing, you're not going to get those benefits in 2 to 3 years where your competitors might be, because it takes a couple of years to get enough data for AI and BI to be meaningful. So the Extensibility and their large marketplace of partners, whether it's an IoT partner, we partner with Machine Metrics doing IoT on the shop floor, for example, or other integrations that might be there. The Extensibility, the multi-cloud approach, makes that much simpler than an on-premise, where you might be writing through older type APIs, .com objects, or right to the database, which can be fraught for error.
Yeah.
So especially if you're doing transactional stuff, that can be fraught for error. So that's a big part of it, but also the AI readiness, being able to ask a question. How do I do this in the software? You can do that. What's our sales trends? It'll give you a graph. Do you want to add that to a dashboard? It'll do that. It'll do anomaly detection, and it will let you write your own agents with privacy already built in or security built in, so you're not sharing your private ERP data, which is your gold, with the outside world. You're not training those LLMs, you're just using the power of them. So like real-time changes by customer demand. You can look at material planning in real time. Even if something on the shop floor was just scrapped, if we didn't have any in inventory, you can get it over replenishment level, get that order out with min-max quantities right away. Yeah. So that's, real time. If you're using IoT in the shop floor, you're tracking things like how long did something take, and now you can make real-time decisions on where to put the next order if you have multiple machines that do the same thing. So there's a lot of examples of having real-time data supporting efficiencies and growth and profitability for a company. We work with multiple publishers, so we work with Infor and Acumatica. They both work with engineer to order and make to order. If you're not in, repetitive manufacturing, make to stock, you can have the system help you with sending specs out to the shop floor, helping you with estimating these new things based on similar products you built in the past. Bring that cost and data in, make sure you add up, you add your margins on and where you want to get there, your markups on there, things of that nature. But also can do scheduling, material planning, etc. for multi-level bills of material, which usually ETO and MTO you are, and sync the lower levels to the upper level and the schedule as well. When you're talking about maintenance on the machines on the shop floor, so nowadays the IoT tools that can connect right to the ERP, they can watch for things like vibrations that aren't normal. And when you have a different vibration and it gets out of tolerance that you set, then it can tell you, hey, you need a repair order. So before you damage the machine further and keep it down for a week, maybe it's a quick change of tightening a screw and it's down for a day, for example, or 10 minutes, right? I think the biggest thing with ERP is making sure you've implemented it with your whole company, the whole value stream in mind. So starting with quote, going to order, going to material planning and scheduling, engineering, maybe production, quality control, shipping. Make sure we understand the inputs and outputs across all those different processes and where you might need to have KPIs that you're trying to set based on your strategic goals. Yeah. And by having all that in one system and all that flowing, you're reducing data entry, you're getting all your reporting out of one system, you're making all that data available for tools like AI and things of that nature. And you'll be able to add on best-of-breed products with a multi-cloud extensibility approach that's in Acumatica. Taking what your current processes are, your current KPIs and your current results, and your growth plans, your revenue, your profitability, and realizing those with a modern ERP. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, right? You got to clean your data, audit your data, make sure it's ready for what you want to be in the future, move into the ERP system, which is a project in itself, and then set up those continuous improvement sprints that we talked about earlier. But we've had companies, for example, Major Tool out in Indianapolis. They're one of the largest aerospace and defense manufacturers in the country. They're working on, a lot of the big missions around, Artemis missions. And they actually told us that our scheduling and our ability, supply chain tools and the ability to look at, hey, where do I need more in the future? Where are my bottlenecks going to be? Where do I have more capacity to sell? Where are my jobs right now? They were able to increase revenue by 4 times by using the ERP data and the processes. They're able to reduce from 3 shifts to 2 shifts, saving some more, money there. And they were able to increase their on-time delivery from somewhere in the low 80s or maybe the high 70s to the very high 90s, 98, 99%, while reducing that 3rd shift and reducing the lead time of almost every part they manufacture. So you think about, that's one example of how data and a good ERP system for manufacturer can help you look at the future and then be able to, take advantage of it. So one of the things it starts with, as we talked about a little bit earlier, is cybersecurity. No matter what, even if you have the best systems and policies and people in place, sometimes people retire, sometimes they get another job, but you can't afford the security measures and all the testing and penetration testing, et cetera, that, AWS and Azure, those kind of things have. So cybersecurity is number one. I read a CISA report last week on one of the manufacturing digests, and it mentioned that 80% of manufacturers last year were targeted for attacks. 50% of them were successful, and many of those 50% that were successful, half of them paid over 6 figures in ransom to get their data back. So that's number one thing. People don't consider that because they've been on-premise forever, but that's more dangerous than ever. And then there's all the other costs that you don't consider about the server room, the electricity, buying new servers, the electricity, managing that, making sure your backups work, making sure the restores are actually there. Having that real estate, go away if you move to the cloud so you can use it for more office and not have to buy a new building, for example. I know they're small, but every real estate counts. So that's number one. Number two is, making sure that, the next system is going to work for you and your processes in the manufacturing industry that you're in. So that's number two. And then, improving your business processes. Yep. But number three is getting that data ready so that now you can get the modern BI and using the AI in the future and thinking about how that might be able to help you. So we talked about process mining before, being able to look at once you're in the system and using it for a couple of years, building the data for AI and BI to use. You can also, the system, track where your inefficiencies are against benchmarks from similar companies and recommend where AI and automation can work for you. We have about 1,800 manufacturing companies all across the US and Canada. We have many small, $5, $7 million companies that work with us. Then we have $1 billion companies that work with us. We love manufacturing. Our whole company lives and breathes manufacturing. So we've got 160 consultants and developers that do nothing but help manufacturers every day. And they have an average tenure with us for about 15 years, which means they've seen all these processes day in and day out. And so you learn from all those different micro verticals and all the different types of manufacturing out there, what the best practices are. And you bring that experience with a modern ERP, and that's where we shine and love to help manufacturing companies. I've been with WM Synergy for 21 years.
Wow.
I put myself through college working for 2 manufacturing companies and fell in love with manufacturing. So the first one, it was a vinyl pool retrofitting gun pools I had cracked, and I didn't have inventory systems, so we helped build an ERP that did inventory and things like that in FileMaker Pro because they were Apple-based and there was no cloud at the time.
Yeah.
And then I went to work for my dad's company, and I drove around a forklift and helped production on the shop floor until I ran over $10,000 worth of material, and they said, you got to go into the front office and help do a financial report. So that's how long I've been in it, is starting there. And I said, hey, I love ERP. I want to be in ERP. So I got a job in tech support, did that for a couple of years, did product management, consulting for 4 years after that, helped 100 companies implement, and then demos and things of that nature. And about 5 years ago now, became CEO. So that's kind of the story that we've had. So we first started with a mission, and our mission is to help manufacturers and distributors reach their full potential using software, using best practices, good processes, and then the most modern technology. So that's the mission, right? And then how we've changed the company is taking that mission and saying, what employees, we did this about 10 years ago, we keep improving it every year. What employees do that the best, and what values and what do they do? So one of the things was be creative, be allergic to, that's how we've always done it. So that could mean, is this process the right one for where the company is today? Because the company might have changed over the last few years. Number 2 is meaningful outcomes. That's 66% to 99% on-time delivery, or reducing cost of quality as a metric, or a supply chain metric, whatever it is. If you can help a company really improve their business, they're going to come back to us and work with us more. So that's a big benefit. Dedication, understanding all the new features in the software, what's going on with things like AI and BI and what's capable today, and what's going on in the whole manufacturing industry. We have companies we've worked with that I was in there 20 years ago, and it took them 2 days to manufacture something or a week to manufacturing. Now, one of those companies I'm talking about, from 1 week to 15 minutes, the same part. So just think about that. With automation, with new tools, with new processes, that's what can happen. So that dedication, understanding what's possible, what's going on in the industry. Customer sat, and that sounds like everybody has that, but customer sat is really, in my mind, is really about, meeting those customers where they are. Some companies coming out of QuickBooks, never done ERP implementation before. You got to meet them where they are. Some of those companies have done 5 ERPs before. You don't want to do 5 ERPs in a short time of projects, but they have, and they know what they're doing. So we got to meet them where they are. And the last value that we really have is, oh my God, integrity. Doing the right thing always. It's really important for me. Our name is important to me and our whole company. We want to be known as the company that you go to really help you reach that, full potential and improve your business. And that's all about integrity and doing the right thing by our customers.